Today, we're going to see what this guy looks like on shrooms. We're going to spruce up his base with a little bit of cork and basing bits. Use some green stuff to add some custom Bloodtooth mushrooms in the style of my Death Guard army. So if that sounds cool to you, then hey, you're in the right place. You know, your life might be a mess, but you can always clean up your hobby desk. You have control over that. And here is what we're working on today. I had somebody ask about what my mushrooms would look like on a bigger model. Let me get you guys caught up. If you're not aware, I'm getting into Death Guard and I'm doing this funky mushroom scheme. These mushrooms, those of you who've seen previous videos are going to be tired of me talking about it, but these are called Bloodtooth mushrooms. You should look them up. They're freaky, but they actually look like this. They're kind of white on top, and they've got like red pools of like what looks like blood. This guy's maybe turned out a little bit better. The pooling is not as like raised and viscous as they are in real life. It literally looks like drops of blood. Anyway, but yeah, I thought I would see what it would look like here on a vehicle. And this guy was, not too pricey, and somebody had requested it, so I figured, why the heck not? Always so satisfying. Yeah, take a look at that beauty. That right there is a face that only a mother could love, or Papa Nurgle, I guess. Your dad probably loves you too. Have you talked to your dad lately? Maybe send him a text or something. It's got a nice big base. I like that. I love a big fat base to play with. Fantastic. This should be pretty straightforward, which I like for, a model of this size. We don't have too many pieces. It's going to be a relatively easy build, but we're going to have something substantial to work with. Man, that's super satisfying. That's going to be really satisfying. In all honesty, I got into this hobby because, why did I get into this hobby again? Well, I guess it was the lore, technically, initially, that got me interested in 40k. And then it was like, it's a game too. And my son was interested in it. Like, oh, well, we can play the game. And so we got models. And then this whole process is what actually sucked me in. I've been doing 40k for coming up on 2 years now, and I still do not have a fully functioning painted army. Okay, I have 500 points worth of Blood Angels painted that I could put on the table, but not the army that I would like to have. And I've kind of decided that I'm okay with it. I almost lost that one. There's something really soothing about the whole process of clipping things off the sprue, building the model. Oh no, I dropped one on the floor. And everything that happens after you're assembling the model is fun too. Although I find that I myself am a little bit of a perfectionist, so painting takes me a lot longer. And I don't know, maybe that makes that part of the process a little less enjoyable for me. It's something I'm working on because I do have a completionist aspect to my personality. I want things to be finished. I want to accomplish all the things I want to accomplish. And I have unpainted minis, and as long as I don't look at them, I'm fine. But the moment that I do look at them, yeah. But that's a weird thing, to feel about a hobby, like this need to somehow reach this level of perfection. I've got enough of that going on in my day job and everything else I do in life. I do not need that in my leisure time. But we bring our personalities with us in whatever we do. Crap, maybe I shouldn't have clipped them all out all at once. Okay, now I know what I'm looking at now. They were just in a weird position, but okay, I think I've got it. That's okay. Not perfect. I don't know how visible this gap is going to be either. It doesn't seem like it will be very visible. This is smooth, so something else is going to cover that up. Now this part's nasty back here. That little thing, I don't even know that I can really push that together, kind of. Okay, now I got it together. And now I've got to hold it there. There really is something satisfying about having a problem that you can fix. For the most part, everyday life is not like that, but your hobbies should be. That's where when people who are pro painters and kit bashers talk about getting burnt out, it might seem impossible when something becomes a job and there are things about it that you can't solve easily. I could totally see how that happens. Yeah, the push fit aspect continues here. Was this like, I don't know, was this kit part of, it's not entirely push fit, but it just seems like compared to most other random builds that, you know, I've done, it's not like this. Like everything is just pushed into place for the most part. Not complaining. I don't mind push fit models, really. Don't have a problem with them. I know some of you are probably like, you didn't put glue in there. I know, it's okay. This is one of the more interesting models I've ever assembled before. This thing is, wow. And that's what those 3 holes on the base are for, is for those 3 pegs right there. Brilliant. I get it now. I guess what I'm trying to say about the hobby is that don't put too much pressure on it. Probably have enough pressure on you from work, your boss, you've got kids. You definitely have pressure. Just let it be a hobby. Just let it be a hobby, man. You know, you can be proud of what you accomplish for sure. Something to be said for just letting it be a hobby. I've definitely learned my lesson in that department. If you guys have been around the channel, you probably noticed I was gone for a while. Then I came back. I made a whole deal about it. Thanks to all of those of you who stuck around, though. I was not expecting that. I was kind of expecting to post a video and nobody would really see it. But some of my old viewers, you guys are still around, and that's really cool. And I want to thank you for supporting the channel and like just watching the videos. Like when it came down to it, that's what I was really doing this for. That's what was really motivating me, and I lost sight of that. Yeah, somehow I'd have to get 4 of these pegs to all line up with each other at the same time. Okay, all right. We've got a little guy. He's a little cutie there. Yeah, he is. Look at that little guy. That was definitely fun. Let's put him on the base just for effect. Oh, okay. Well, we might wind up doing away with the pegs for the base. I don't know what happened, but there he is. And now this guy needs some mushrooms. And like I showed off before, this is how they wind up looking once everything is finished. But I do have a few models here that have the mushrooms in kind of their green stuff form first. I decided for this guy to just do a big clump or cluster here over his shoulder. This guy's got them all over the place. These are Blight-Lord Terminators, as you can probably tell. So he's got one like sneaking out from between his shoulder pad there. He's got one on his gun. This dude is, I think he's one of the first ones that I actually played around with this concept on. And apparently his arm is floating. Boy, I have to fix that. My goodness, okay. And then we've got this bug-looking guy here. He was tricky because I like all his spiky bits all over him, and I didn't want to cover it up too much with mushrooms. So I wound up putting some, like, on his gun. I think one might have fallen off somewhere. I'm going to have to find it. But yeah, that's the idea. Oh yeah, here he is. A happy little mushroom. That'll just have to get glued on there. But yeah, we'll set that aside for now. Now, obviously, with a bigger model to work with, we can go for something, you know, bigger in the mushroom department. And we have a lot of nice panels where we've got like real estate for these mushroom spores to take root. Mushrooms don't really do that. They don't take root. They don't have roots. They're not plants. But you know, where that's not, this is a Warhammer channel, not, you know, a botany channel or whatever. Sadly, this is the last of my green stuff, and I have a feeling that I'm going to be using all of it on this dude. So I'll just have to grab some more this weekend the next time I'm at the hobby store. But yeah, gloves have to come off for this stuff. I have found that the press and fold method is one of the fastest ways to get green stuff mixed together without having to, like, you know, start a fire between your hands. And of course, if you're working with a smaller batch of green stuff, that also makes it go faster too. I will admit I am a little tempted to just do something like this and, you know, and call it a day. Holy cow. I do think we want to lead off with a big one though. And for molding these, yeah, it's pretty simple. They kind of look squatty. They're slightly rounded on the top. Sometimes I make them a little too flat, so they are slightly rounded, more like this. But they're pretty nondescript otherwise. Like the big thing is, you know, the drops of blood that, you know, are sitting there on the top. Honestly, probably have too much of a tail here, so I'm going to trim that. That way we're not wasting too much green stuff. Let's go for one right here on the top. A very safe spot to put a big one because it's not really going to droop, right? And we're also not getting in the way of any of this Death Guard iconography on the front of the model, right, or the face of the model. We are kind of obscuring a few things back here, but you know, you can rotate the thing if you want to see it all. The big white bleeding mushroom on top of its head is gonna also be a point of interest. Now we can nest in one or two small ones in here with it. I find pairing them with different sizes creates a nice little effect. I will also, when I have extra green stuff, make these guys, and so this is actually one that's already fully cured, but I think it's a perfect fit for this spot back here. If I can just wiggle it in right there. Yeah, perfect. And if some of the surfaces here are imperfect, once it hardens, it's really easy to come in with a hobby knife and carve it up if you're trying to do the same kind of thing. So this is actually a very forgiving technique. Start building up a little cluster on this side too. Yeah, I like that. This is just a little bit bigger. Well, I don't know. Okay, the cluster's not bigger, but the individual mushrooms are a little bit bigger right there. What I've been trying to do is get 7 mushrooms on each dude in kind of different variations. So like this guy's got 4 in one place and then 3 spread out, and then I drop them on the table and thank goodness none of them fell off. And I don't know if we want to change that up at this stage of the game with this guy. Like, should we keep things going? If that's the case, this is all the green stuff I have left. Do we just make one last giant mushroom? I think we have to. If we make him a little squattier, we can make the dome a little bit broader, a little bit bigger, sell that effect a little bit more. Let's just see what it's going to look like here. It's very easy to remove if we don't like it. Let's see. Well, maybe we tilt it a little bit so it's not in the way of the... Yeah, that would be a bad placement right there, to be in the way of... You know, just for practical purposes. I dig it though. Maybe it needs to, yeah, here, let me reposition it. It's almost more like it's growing in from the side right there. It kind of changes the silhouette a little bit. I don't want to overdo it too much. You know, I could obviously add a ton more mushrooms on here to this guy if I really was so inclined. But, you know, I like the idea of keeping it to 7 for the most part. I think if I did like, I don't know, Poxwalkers or something, loading them up with tons and tons of tiny little mushrooms would be... This is also a great spot for like a little nerdling to hang out on. You know what I mean? Right here. So I like that. I like it. It's growing on me. Pun intended. I think I just need to round out the edge just a little bit. There we go. Now let's do some basing here. We'll lose those nubs. Not me nubs, Popper. Okay. You're okay. You'll be fine. And this has been kind of the style of basing I've been going with lately for Death Guard. And then when I painted up, kind of a weird like alien vibe is what I'm really going for. So we've got some purple, some green, some red. Like everything's just kind of crazy looking. I just wanted to kind of wing it and see what it would look like. Now with a larger base, this is a good opportunity to use some different materials. So we're going to try out some cork. I don't know what kind of cork this is, but this stuff smells amazing. It leaves a lot of dust though. Try to keep some of the natural lines where we can. Not going to use all of this. Just a few chunks. Obviously those straight edges, this would probably be better to like stand up like that. Maybe pair it with another piece. Actually, that's not too bad. Right there. Right? There we go. We got plenty to work with here. Now, our guy here is taking up a substantial portion of the base, but depending on how we position him, we kind of open up a little more room. I don't want him hanging out too far over the edge, obviously, but something like that, slightly off center, so we have a slightly larger area here to work with, I think is going to be aesthetically pleasing. Got this big old chunk right here, which would kind of make sense that, you know, he moved out of the way of it, but that's kind of one and done, you know what I mean? And I just broke up a lot of cork. There's also this one where we would probably stand this on its edge, so let's see. That just creates a big wall where we're not going to see much of the model once we're done with that. Yeah, that's enough. This guy's a little skinnier, and he's got some more interesting variation here. Like, that definitely looks like a rock formation, you know what I mean? Like that right there. on the edge. That's perfect. And the good old cheap stuff. Yeah, that was easy. We could try to fit some here on the other side, but I feel that kind of maybe frames it a little odd, and there might be some other things I want to do over there. One piece of cork is enough. We'll just set the rest of this aside in another container, and we can use that later. So let's get some texture on this son of a... Hobby sometimes teaches you patience too. Nothing wrong with that. It's definitely absorbing some of that super glue, and so that's probably what's going on there. We just need to hold it down for a minute. Now let's see how we're doing here. Oh, okay, yeah, we're on there solid. So now we got our texture here. This is nothing fancy. I've used a variety of different materials before. This is like a hobby specific material, but you can also get like really cheap stuff from like the dollar store, like just, you know, the type of sand you put like candles in, or I don't know what it's called. Like you don't have to use the fancy shit, even though we kind of are today. So one method is obviously to put it in here and then put the texture sand over the top of it. And that works just fine. The only problem is this base is rather large, and I don't want to like get my glove accidentally in the super glue. So I'm actually going to use the lid here instead. Then I can sprinkle it on top and then easily dump the excess back in. Okay, guys, you're crowding me here just a little bit. Can I have just a little bit of space? Thank you. Okay, and we can work in sections, but this really is not rocket surgery. Just need to sprinkle that down. Probably could spread it out a little bit too. Let it run. Probably should have done that first. Now you're understanding why this channel is called Noobs for the Noob God. I am not going to show you only the perfect parts. I'm not going to cut out the mistakes, because you're probably going to make these mistakes too, and then you'll know it's okay. It's kind of interesting there. Let's see how this goes. And yes, your hobby desk will become a mess. It's part of the process. We can tamp off the excess. We did a pretty decent job there to start with. Now I'd say we come back in here and we just set him back down, see how that's looking. Keep in mind, we're probably going to have to prime him separately from the base if we want to paint, if we want to have any chance of painting any of this. So that's the plan here. But we do have some space where we can add a little extra point of interest. We'll go ahead and do that. For the most part, I want to leave this kind of as is. Maybe add some sand to the rim. Or not the rim, but around the edges. Yeah, that one's done. Just a few spots there that I want to fill in. And honestly, at this point, we can kind of do that over the open container. Yeah, see? This is when you know you've been in the hobby long enough, because you're like, the last time I did this, it was a disaster. But I'm remembering not to do that again. Kind of thing that just comes in time. Okay. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Okay, so just this area here, and I don't want to do something that's going to be tall, because you've got some height on this side. This is going to be something lower to the ground. So I'm thinking maybe a couple little rocks around this edge, which we'll use some broken glass for. Maybe we'll try one of those like infested basing bits. All right, I like this one. It's got the little kind of plasma coil there. It's a weird centipede looking thing. It's a really like interesting little piece. Let's see where it would fit. Yeah, we'll fit it in here. We've already put some sand there. It's not really a big deal. We can work with it. We'll make it work. I'll show you. Okay. So we decided we were going to go just clear out some of that sand. I think it was the best move, all things considered. Yeah, I'll shut up and get it glued down here. Sometimes it just doesn't want to cooperate. So let's give that a moment here. Okay, so, I think we're at a decent spot here. This looks kind of weird to me, the way I added in this broken glass and kind of a line, but I'm hoping once we add the model into position, it's not going to look so weird. And no, it totally does. It looks like a fairy circle or something, but okay. Easy fix. All right, and the next time you see this guy, he's going to be primed. I'll probably have the base primed a different color, but yeah, say goodbye for now. I mean, it'll be a second for you, but like, you know how it is. It's YouTube magic. Huzzah! Okay, primed. I even did a pretty ghetto zenithal there. Might not have been worth it. I don't know. The base actually turned out kind of interesting, because I originally primed it black, and then literally the black ran out, and so I came in. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be these colors. It just needed to be primed. I came in with this kind of like rust red. The effect is actually pretty neat, because I only primed from one direction. might have to try that again. Well, let's get some paint on here. Been doing some pallid bone, but I want to test and see what this is going to look like with the zenithal first. So we're going to do it on one of these boys. Yeah, it's looking more like a coffee stain. More than anything. Okay, well, not sure how I feel about this. To be quite honest with you. Let's see what rigor mortis looks like. We got to shake this up. Yeah, this is what you get for just randomly trying something new. Go for this guy here. I feel like the zenithal worked a little better on him, catching those high spots. Yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit closer to what I'm going for with some washes and other effects. You can keep the brightness up top. Not bad. Of course, the tan primer is what I used on this dude. You can really see it pretty well. Like on this guy. And I don't know if the zenithal with the tan is really doing much, but you know what? That's why I do this stuff, so that you don't have to do it. Yeah, zenithal more effective when it's just probably 2 layers. I did like a gray and then a white. With the tan, that was probably excessive. But this will give me the, it's fine. The primer's still doing its job. It's just to prime the mini. I'm not upset about it. Okay, so let's get some on this guy then. But yeah, I like how that's looking. This is, again, it's covering up the tan a little bit more than I would have thought. I maybe could have gone with a slightly thinner coat. I could also keep the thing in focus in the camera so that you didn't see it all fuzzy. Oh, and the mushrooms, of course, are going to be painted separately, so we're going to kind of leave them untouched for right now. Again, they get sort of some special attention right at the end. So that's interesting. I came in and kind of, while the pallid bone was still wet, worked in some of the rigor mortis on the top. You can see we can still get some of the dark recesses from the pallid bone. It's not ultimately going to matter because there's going to be so many washes and other little grimy things I'm going to put on here that, honestly, Death Guard, you can't really go wrong. It's a very forgiving army to paint. That's what I've learned, and I've only painted a few models. I'm definitely still at that experimentation phase. As you can see, this is model number 1, which I really liked how he turned out. And model number 2 is a bit more funky. Like he's got some... I intentionally experimented with him and tried a whole bunch of random stuff. So he does look a little bit like a hodgepodge here and there. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. While we're waiting for this, let's go ahead and go over the basing scheme. So I do have some Citadel paints, and we're going to use a Nagroth Knight for the grass. And we're going to come in with a heavy overbrushing and just make sure we get that fully saturated. We don't really want to see this kind of red color. If it were all black, I'd be a little less picky, but I really want to make sure I cover that red with this purple. Okay, so that's a pretty good coating on there, and obviously we're gonna have to wait for this to dry, but here's a noob tip for you. You can just switch back to the model while you're waiting for this to dry. A perk of doing them separately. We're gonna use some of the metallics on this guy, some of the accents. We're gonna hit that with Evil Crumb. Oh, and the little guy's got an ouchie deer. I mean, we'll fix that. We'll make it right. Gotta love screaming children in the background, too. All right, so we've added some metallics, a little bit of shading. He's definitely not done yet, but I want to get some dots on these mushrooms so you guys can see that. I've been using Army Painter True Blood for this. I might mix it up and try some different things, but hey, it's what we got for now. Now, normally I would use a finer tipped brush for this because I would be adding little dots onto tiny little mushrooms like these guys right here, in which case that works just fine. Yeah, okay, we're switching brushes. But you get the idea. I can just put a little drop in there, make it a little bigger. I'll usually come back for a second round. I'm not so much painting these on as I am leaving a droplet. I'm actually trying to get quite a bit of that True Blood on the tip of the brush, if you can see that. So I don't really have to do much work. All right, and for a few of those little guys, I think this looks just fine, and this actually mimics pretty closely what these mushrooms look like in real life. But for these big ones, we want to try making some bigger droplets if we can. So first here, I just want to try to start with a small one and then just keep adding to it to make it a little bit bigger. That seems to work pretty well. It's kind of hard to keep a round shape or a circular shape. I guess it's still round, but it becomes an oval. That's not too bad. Only thing here is that this is kind of positioned on the side, and I just now realized if I let it sit, it's going to droop. And that's not exactly what I'm going for. So I'm going to have to hold it like this for a while. technique translates though, for sure, but I think I will mix in some smaller ones just so that it doesn't look too ridiculous. Yeah, okay. That's bound to happen where they start to merge with each other. Okay, before we get too far along, I'm gonna let this set. While we're waiting for that to dry, I wanted to let you know I wrote a book. Jotnar is a science fiction short story, actually, that's introducing a new series that I am writing. I like to tell people it's like Halo meets Aliens meets The Walking Dead, but minus all the drama. It's got alien invasions, space marines, body horror, all that fun stuff. So if that's your jam, there's a link in the description. Grabbing a copy is a great way to support the channel. And yes, right now it is only available in ebook. Paperbacks are coming soon. All right, so yeah, we have a little bit of merging together there. It was probably, honestly, too small of a mushroom to really do really big ones on. But I'm not going to complain. It's fine. We did learn, however, that the technique works. We don't have to use a bigger brush or anything. We can just continue to add on, and that will make the blobs bigger. Looks like an eyeball. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Craziness. I think on this one, I'm going to try not to make too many of them big. We'll just have maybe that big one in the center. That's where I got to be careful. I've got to put something there, but not get too close to that one in the middle. I probably shouldn't have put the big one in the middle. Yeah, whatever. And so lesson learned on this one too. Let's put a big one like maybe here. Try not to make too much of a regular looking pattern, but all right. And now for the big boy. We've got plenty of real estate here, so I think we will go a little bit bigger with a few of them. Hey, that's looking pretty gnarly, if I do say so myself. Okay, yeah, we got a little bit of fusing going on there, but you know, that's not bad. I think we're off to a good start. All right, I'm going to keep working on this guy off camera for a bit. This video has gone on long enough, but I do want to know your thoughts. What do you think of the base? What do you think of the mushrooms, or just in general, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you have to say about where we are so far and any suggestions you have on how to finish this guy up. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, of course, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.